I kept quiet while my sisters tore girls apart piece by piece. Then I found the folders, names, photos, prices. Now the truth is out and so is my name. I can't take it back. And maybe I don't want to. Chloe once told Sophie she'd never be Kappa material because of her medical condition, and then made fun of her weight in front of the entire house. The worst part? When I tried to defend Sophie, Chloe just rolled her eyes and tossed, "Maybe if you tried harder, you'd fit in too." I bit my tongue. That was a month ago. Today things changed. I was at the Kappa dining table with my avocado toast, nursing an iced vanilla matcha like it was emotional life support, when Chloe, our president, walked in like she owned the place. Perfect, clean girl vibes, even with a hangover. Her hair looked like it had its own personal glam team. She called for the new pledges to line up against the wall. We all pretended this was tradition and not completely messed up. One by one, they stood straighter, stomachs sucked in. Then Chloe's perfectly manicured finger pointed down the line. "Turn around. Shirts up." I nearly choked on my toast. Sophie was in that lineup. Sophie's voice trembled. "I have an insulin pump. I'm diabetic." Chloe's laugh sliced through the air. "Oh, sure you are. That's what they all say when they can't stop eating." And then, without warning, Chloe yanked Sophie's shirt herself. The pump was right there. Bruised skin, medical tubing. Chloe didn't apologize. Didn't even blink. Just smirked and said, "Well, you should have disclosed it. Diabetes makes you gain weight anyway. You're cut." Sophie bolted, crying so hard the sound echoed down the hall. The room went dead silent. Every fork frozen midair. That's when I saw Chloe for what she really was. Not a leader, not a sister, just a petty, mean little girl who thought her looks made her untouchable. When she left, Jessica slammed her fist on the table so hard everyone jumped. "That's it. She's done." It was like someone broke a dam. Amy started talking about the Jewish girl Chloe made sleep outside. Brittany brought up secret shower recordings. Emma whispered about planted drugs. Trauma just started spilling out everywhere. Then Miranda pulled out her pink laptop. I still have her Google Drive from when I was secretary. She opened it and went pale. Folders. Dozens of them. Weight spreadsheets. Photos that should never have existed. Academic records with cruel little notes about who was too smart or not pretty enough. "She's been selling our info," Miranda whispered, and the Venmo receipts backed it up. $500 for spring break photos, $200 for someone's psychology notes. She'd been turning our worst moments into profit. Amy whipped out her phone. "My mom's best friend is on the board of trustees. She's calling her right now." By 6 a.m., after an all-nighter of digging through records and calling every girl who had dropped, transferred, or been cut, we had enough evidence to bury Chloe's Kappa career for good. Sophie had already filed a complaint with Student Health Services at 3 a.m. Monday morning came. The national board sat there in their little suits while Chloe played her perfect president act, talking about standards and pointing to awards she didn't even earn. Then the head board member cut her off. "We received an urgent email last night." The projector flicked on. Chloe's voice filled the room. "If you can't fit into a size 2, you're not a real Kappa." Video after video, girls crying at weigh-ins. Hazing she swore never happened. Chloe shrieked, "What is this?" Jessica stood. "This is Sophie. She's diabetic. You tried to cut her for having an insulin pump." Then, one by one, every single girl stood up. 40 of us silent. The board member kept scrolling through evidence. Bank records, medical reports, 3 years of dirt, until campus security walked in. "Chloe Walker, you need to come with us. The dean is waiting." By noon, her composite photo was off the wall. By 3 p.m., she was expelled, Title IX violations, hazing, and embezzlement. And I thought it was over. But then her sugar daddy showed up. That afternoon, a white Tesla screeched up to the house. Derek Thompson. I recognized him from his LinkedIn before he even stepped out. Messy gray hair. Red face like he'd been screaming at someone. He slammed the door and stormed inside without knocking. His eyes locked on me. You cost me everything," he snarled, grabbing my wrist hard enough to bruise. I ripped my arm away, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear. Jessica leapt between us, Amy and two other sisters forming a wall, all of them recording on their phones. "You need to leave," Jessica said, her voice like steel. Derek's face went purple. A vein in his forehead pulsed. He tried to push through, but more girls crowded in, blocking him. Security arrived in minutes. Someone had already called when they saw his car flying into the lot. Two officers dragged him out as he shouted threats about knowing where I lived, where my parents worked, promising to ruin my life. His voice still echoed in my head hours later. That night, I locked myself in my dorm and dug up everything I could find on him. Business ownerships, country club memberships, even his family Christmas card with his 3 kids in matching sweaters. I saved it all in 3 different cloud accounts. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. "Thank you for standing up for me. My parents want to meet you." I stared at it for 10 minutes before replying, "I'd love to." We agreed to meet tomorrow morning at the coffee shop near the library. Tuesday morning, I walked into the coffee shop near campus and spotted Sophie and her parents right away. They were already standing, waiting for me, and the second I reached the table, they pulled me into a hug like we'd known each other forever. Her mom was still in her scrubs, straight from a night shift at the hospital, and her eyes were glassy when she told me Sophie had been close to diabetic ketoacidosis from all the stress and skipped meals. Her dad slid a sleek business card across the table. "Partner at a downtown law firm." His voice was steady but fierce. "We're filing a civil suit." Sophie just nodded beside him, looking more resolute than I'd ever seen her. That afternoon, my phone rang. Title IX wanted me in for a formal interview. The investigator looked like she'd been running on caffeine and panic for 3 days straight. She typed furiously as I walked her through everything from Friday, down to Chloe's exact words. She said 12 other girls had already filed complaints, and more were coming in by the hour. Then, Wednesday night, it was 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I wandered into the kitchen for water, and froze when I saw a very familiar car parked in visitor parking. Chloe's. Even though she was banned from campus, she was moving fast toward the back entrance, carrying a big cardboard box. I hit go live on Instagram and called campus security, following her at a distance. She still had her old key. The door clicked open, and I watched her slip into the computer room. Security caught her mid-delete, fingers flying over the keyboard, eyes darting to the door every few seconds. The box she'd brought was stuffed with printed spreadsheets. For years' worth of weight logs, complete with photos none of us had known existed. By Thursday, Miranda and I were sitting in the campus computer lab digging through cached Google Drive data like our lives depended on it. Every folder was worse than the last. Price lists for nude photos sold to frat guys. Academic files sold to rival sororities. Confidential medical records. Receipts from guys we knew, some from campus, some from the community, paying thousands for things that made my stomach turn. Then I saw my own name on one of those lists, with a dollar amount beside it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night I couldn't eat. Every bite brought back the image of Sophie's face when Chloe grabbed her shirt. My roommate brought me soup, sat on the edge of my bed, and let me cry. Friday morning, Amy's mom's friend from the board of trustees called me directly. "Send me everything, screenshots, videos, receipts. All of it. I'll be there tomorrow with lawyers. This ends now." 2 days later, we were in an emergency board meeting. The national president, Rachel Foster, and 4 other execs sat at a long table, their expressions carved from stone. Chloe's parents showed up with an attorney, insisting it was all lies. Then Miranda pulled the nuclear option, an audio file from Chloe's cloud storage, crystal clear. Chloe's voice, talking to Derek about which girl's photos would sell best. Naming buyers, a psychology professor, 3 businessmen, even a state rep. The room exploded. Parents yelling, board members frantically on their phones. Chloe's mom literally fainted. The next morning, real FBI agents walked into the house. Not campus cops, federal badges. They boxed up every computer, every phone, every scrap of paper. One of them quietly told me this wasn't just hazing anymore. It could be trafficking of intimate images across state lines. That night, Jessica and I sat on her bed, numb. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Every sorority on campus wanted answers. But how do you explain that your entire Greek system was built on exploitation? Saturday morning, my phone lit up with an unknown number. It was Caroline, Derek's wife. She was crying, apologizing, saying she had no clue what was going on. She was filing for divorce and wanted to help. She had his financial records and Venmo history with Chloe going back 2 years. That afternoon, Sophie came back to campus with her parents. She looked healthier already, color back in her cheeks. She told us she was transferring, but she'd testify if we needed her. That night, Caroline emailed me Derek's transactions. The rent payments to Chloe lined up perfectly with dates she sold photos. Over $30,000 in 2 years. Then Sunday night, I was in my dorm, studying, when something crashed through my window. Glass everywhere. A brick landed on my desk. Taped to it was a note. Drop it or you're next. My roommate screamed so loud, people from down the hall ran in. Campus security moved me to a safe room in another building. Even with the window taped up, I could still feel the cold air creeping in. I didn't sleep for 2 days. Every click of the heater sounded like footsteps. Every door closing made me feel like I was about to be attacked. Jessica brought me clothes, food, and updates. The Greek system was unraveling. News vans were everywhere. Other chapters were getting investigated. Parents were pulling their kids out of school. A campus detective came to take my statement and photograph my shaking hands. He said they had footage of someone in a Kappa hoodie near my dorm but with their face covered. Patrols would be stepped up. I stayed in that safe room for a week until my parents drove down from Virginia. My mom hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. My dad paced the whole room, fists clenched. They begged me to come home. But I couldn't. Not yet. Not until it was over. That Monday, the university president sent out a campus-wide email. Kappa's charter was suspended. All Greek life on hold. It sounded like rebuilding trust. But everyone knew it was just PR. That afternoon, Miranda showed up at my safe room with her laptop. Her face was ghost pale. She'd found a folder labeled Marketability Ratings. Over 200 girls. Photos taken without consent. For years' worth. Sophie's dad's law firm took our case pro bono. The first meeting downtown had 23 former members, each with their own horror story. Eating disorders triggered by weigh-ins. Professors turned against them after rumors. One girl blackmailed with photos for 2 years. By Tuesday, Derek's mugshot was on the news. Federal charges. Some of the girls in those photos had been underage. Caroline had found his second phone with everything on it. I tried to go back to class, but I couldn't focus. People whispered when I walked by, brave to some, Greek life killer to others. I ate lunch in my car to avoid the stares. Then Thursday night, Jessica showed up at my door in tears. She was stepping down as VP. The threats, the vandalism to her car. She couldn't take it anymore. We hugged, both of us crying, realizing our friendship might not survive what came next. The next week, the FBI's tech team called me. They'd pulled something from Chloe's deleted messages, and it made my skin crawl. She hadn't been acting alone. She'd been talking to 5 other chapter presidents at different universities, all running the exact same schemes, trading tips on controlling members, sharing methods. This wasn't just our campus, it was a network. 3 weeks later, I was at home, halfway through a bowl of cereal, when there was a knock at my door. I opened it to a process server, papers in hand. I literally dropped my spoon onto the floor when I read the first line. Chloe's parents were suing me. $2 million. Defamation and destroying their daughter's future. My hands shook so bad, I could barely hold the stack. I called the university's legal office immediately. They booked me with a campus attorney that same afternoon, Patricia Kim. She looked at the papers and laughed. Actually laughed. "This isn't real litigation," she said. "This is scare tactics. They're desperate." The next morning, Rachel from the national board called me while I was walking to class. She said she was pushing for a total overhaul of Greek life nationwide and wanted me to speak at their conference. I told her I didn't know if I had the strength left. She just said, "Think about it." 2 days later, I ran into Chloe at the grocery store. No designer handbag, no flashy jewelry, just plain Target clothes. She looked smaller. Not physically, but like someone had punctured her and let all the arrogance seep out. She and her mom saw me, spun around, and power walked away. That night, Sophie texted me a photo from her new school in Texas. She was at a party, smiling, holding a plate of food. She said she was eating normally again, thanked me for giving her life back. I cried for the first time in weeks, and they were good tears. The following Monday was Chloe's arraignment. She pleaded not guilty to 47 counts. Trafficking, fraud, harassment. Her parents were in the front row. Her mom sobbing. Chloe wouldn't look at anyone, just stared down at her folded hands. Bail was set at $500,000. Her parents put their house up to pay it. She walked out wearing an ankle monitor, banned from campus, forbidden to contact any of us. 6 weeks after this all started, Miranda invited me to coffee. She told me she'd been accepted to MIT for grad school in cybersecurity, inspired by our investigation. "We did something important," she said, "even if it doesn't feel like it yet." While we were sitting there, my phone buzzed. A text from Caroline, Derek's wife. His business had collapsed. Protesters outside his real estate office. Investors gone. Properties in foreclosure. Her message was short. He lost everything. Good. Later that week, I walked past the Kappa house for the first time in months. Dark windows. For sale sign on the lawn. The other Greek houses were quiet too. No music. No parties. Just empty. My phone started buzzing in my pocket. Amy's name kept popping up until I finally answered. She was crying so hard, I could barely understand her. Someone had posted her medical records online from 2 years ago. Everything about her eating disorder, the suicide attempt, details only a hospital should have. She kept saying Chloe's name. I remembered Chloe asking her weirdly specific questions last year about that hospital stay. But how would Chloe get those files? Those are locked tight, HIPAA level, which meant someone else had to be involved. Then Miranda called me. She'd found out. A girl named Lauren, our former treasurer, still convinced Chloe was innocent. And Lauren worked part-time at the campus health center. Filing. By that afternoon, campus police had arrested her for medical privacy violations. They found other girls' records on her laptop. I went to Amy's dorm that night. She was sitting on her bed, deleting every social media app off her phone, hands trembling. She just kept saying, "I can't do this anymore. I just want to disappear." I sat beside her and let her cry into my shoulder. 2 months passed. The FBI investigation had spread to 12 universities. The news was talking about congressional hearings, possible new laws. Sophie's doctor testified in court that the hazing had nearly killed her. Blood sugar charts and all. Prosecutors tacked on attempted murder charges for Chloe. I finally caved and went to therapy. The counselor specialized in something called institutional betrayal. I told her that saving everyone else was tearing me apart. She nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world. One afternoon, I ran into Jessica in the library. We made small talk about the weather. That's all. The easy friendship we'd had was gone. Just 2 people tied together by the same disaster. Then came the announcement our Kappa chapter permanently shut down. All Greek orgs now under monthly inspections. Some people clapped. Some looked crushed. Me? I felt nothing. Until my mom called, screaming. Derek had shown up at our house in Virginia, even with a restraining order. My dad was calling 911 while my mom recorded him. He was standing on our lawn, yelling about how I'd destroyed his life, how I'd ruined everything. The cops showed up and cuffed him in front of half the neighborhood. The next morning, the judge revoked his bail. His lawyer tried to spin it as stress. The judge just looked him in the eye and said, "Mr. Thompson made his choices. Now he will sit in jail until trial." And for the first time in months, I actually believed it might be over. 3 months passed before I heard anything new about the civil suit. When the lawyers finally called, the case had grown into something massive, no longer just our original group, but 47 plaintiffs in total. Former Kappa members from the last 5 years kept stepping forward with their own horror stories. The university's attorneys showed up at my apartment one afternoon, folders in hand, and slid a settlement offer across my coffee table. $3.2 million, split between all the victims. That night, Sophie's mom called me. Her voice was calm but resolute. They were rejecting it. "This isn't about money," she said. "We want the school to change their Greek life rules." A week later, I was sitting in my academic advisor's office, filling out the forms to change my major. Business classes felt irrelevant now. After everything that had happened, I couldn't pretend to care about profit margins and brand strategies. My advisor tried to talk me out of switching to social work. "You're making an emotional decision. You'll regret giving up a business degree," she said. Maybe she was right, but I couldn't imagine going back. A few days later, a thick envelope landed in my mailbox. The return address read Caroline Thompson. Inside was a letter on heavy, expensive stationery. She'd started a foundation for victims of image-based sexual abuse and wanted to name it after Sophie. She apologized for what her husband had done. For once, it felt like something good had grown out of all this. Then my phone started buzzing. An old Kappa group chat, one that had been dead for months, suddenly lit up. Someone was adding all the former members back and sending threats about snitches getting what they deserve. The messages poured in all night, warnings about consequences for rats. Jessica forwarded everything to the FBI. They traced the IP to Chloe's laptop at her parents' house. She'd just broken her bail conditions. At 3 a.m, the FBI showed up at her front door with a warrant. Her parents stood in the driveway in their pajamas as agents cuffed her. Her mom screamed at the news cameras, insisting we'd ruined an innocent girl. The clip went viral on TikTok by breakfast. After that, my days got quiet. Too quiet. Friends not involved in the case stopped texting. I didn't blame them, they didn't know what to say anymore. But the silence in my apartment was suffocating. Then an email came in from a journalist at the York. She wanted to interview me for a feature on Greek life reform. The title would be "The Girl Who Brought Down Greek Life." I said yes, even though the name made me uneasy. Around the same time, Sophie sent me screenshots from her insulin pump app, 2 straight months of stable readings. She wrote that she was healing, physically and mentally, and that her doctors were thrilled. It was exactly the kind of news I needed. When Chloe's pretrial hearing rolled around, I sat in the courtroom as her lawyer tried to argue for separating the charges. The judge didn't even blink. All 52 counts would be tried together. Trial date, 8 months away. Not long after, the FBI called with an update on Derek's case. They'd uncovered cryptocurrency transactions linking him to a site overseas. He hadn't just been buying images from Chloe, he was reselling them on the dark web. Now, international trafficking charges were on the table. 3 weeks later, I walked out to my car after class and froze. All 4 tires slashed. Rubber dangling in strips. Security footage showed 5 girls in Greek letter hoodies, faces hidden by scarves. The trial symbols on their sweatshirts were clearly visible, but the guard just shrugged. "No one's going to turn them in." I paid $800 for new tires, basically my entire savings. The next morning, Miranda texted to say she was leaving for MIT that day. She was skipping graduation entirely. "We did the right thing," she wrote. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." I never got to say goodbye in person. 2 days later, the university held a press conference. Live-in advisors for all Greek houses starting next semester. Cameras in every common area. Quarterly financial audits. The remaining Greeks were furious on social media, but the board voted unanimously. When spring break hit, the campus emptied. I stayed behind with maybe 20 other students who couldn't afford to go anywhere. I spent the week eating ramen in my dorm and watching Netflix. The quiet was nice, but also unsettling. Then my phone lit up with a flood of alerts. The news: Chloe had attempted suicide in jail, tried to hang herself with her bedsheets. She was now in the hospital under guard. Her parents released a statement blaming me, by name, for driving their daughter to this. My Instagram DMs filled with death threats. Someone even posted my dorm room number on Twitter. Campus security stationed a guard outside my building. I still don't know why I went to see her, but I did. The guard checked my ID 3 times before letting me in. Chloe lay in a hospital bed, pale and small, machines beeping softly. She whispered that she just wanted to be perfect and to be loved. I walked out without answering. What was there to say? 5 months after this began, Derek's trial started. I sat on the witness stand for 3 hours while his lawyer tried to paint me as some jealous girl craving attention. The prosecutor objected again and again, but the judge kept letting him go. I described everything, the photos, the transactions, the messages. Derek sat there in his suit looking like someone's suburban dad. The jury deliberated for 4 days. Verdict: guilty on all 52 counts. Outside, Caroline hugged me and said, "You saved so many girls, including my daughters. They used to think Derek was amazing." The sentencing was set for next month, but for now it was over. I moved into a tiny apartment off campus that weekend. 2 trips and I was settled. My neighbors were an older couple and some grad students who had no clue who I was. No whispers, no stares. I could walk to the grocery store without feeling watched. Then the New York Times article dropped. My full name in the headline. My phone froze from the flood of notifications. Greek life chapters from UCLA to Syracuse were posting statements calling me the destroyer of tradition and sisterhood. I powered my phone down and shoved it in a drawer. I didn't touch it for 3 days. 6 months later, I finally stepped into the courthouse for Chloe's criminal trial. The prosecutor's table looked like a fortress. Stacks of evidence boxes, over 200 pieces in all. Former Kappa sisters filed in one by one to testify. Their stories were gut-wrenching. Eating disorders that started under Chloe's rules. Girls who had tried to take their own lives. One girl rolled up her sleeves to show the scars. Another described collapsing during rush week after going 4 days without food. And Chloe? She just sat there, expressionless, like she was waiting for someone to wrap this up so she could go to lunch. Sophie appeared via video feed from Texas. Even through the grainy connection, I could see her hands trembling. She spoke about that morning in the dining room, the insulin pump, the fear, the humiliation, how it still haunted her at night. Chloe's lawyer brushed it off as normal sorority culture. But you could see the jurors shifting uncomfortably, some visibly sickened. Then the prosecutor put the financial records up on a huge screen. A ripple of shock went through the courtroom. $127,000 over 4 years. Made by selling our photos, our personal data. Spreadsheets ranking us by earning potential, complete with $signs next to our names. Some jurors had tears in their eyes. The jury deliberated for 5 long days. When the foreman finally read the verdict, his voice cracked. Guilty on 48 of 52 counts. Chloe crumpled forward onto the defense table. Her mom sobbed loudly from the gallery. Her dad just stared straight ahead like the life had been drained out of him. I went home afterward and sat in my apartment. No joy, no relief, just emptiness. My friends were gone. My social life was gone. I still didn't feel safe walking across campus. The victory didn't feel like one at all. 2 weeks later, Derek's federal trial began. 15 years in prison. He'll be nearly 60 when he gets out. They walked him out in shackles. He didn't look at anyone, not even Caroline. Outside, she told reporters she was just grateful it was finally over. 2 months after that, Chloe returned for sentencing. The judge called her actions a grotesque abuse of power and trust. 7 years in state prison, eligible for parole after 4. They led her away in an orange jumpsuit. This time, she was crying. That night, Amy texted me for the first time in months. She was in treatment for her eating disorder and starting to feel better. We survived, she wrote. That has to count for something. The civil case wrapped not long after. The university settled for $8.7 million. Sophie's family donated their share to diabetes research and anti-hazing programs. Most of the others put the money toward therapy or finishing school. Graduation came in May. I sat in the stands. Jessica walked across the stage, cap and gown swaying. We made eye contact. She smiled, but it was a sad kind of smile, like we both knew we'd aged a decade in just a few months. Whatever innocence we'd had before all this, gone. 2 weeks later, the National Panhellenic Conference sent an email to every sorority in the country. Anonymous reporting systems, monthly hazing training, all because of what happened with us. Rachel from the national office even called me, thanking me for my courage. I just felt tired. Summer came, campus emptied out, and I found a job at a little downtown coffee shop. The regulars knew me as Emma. No one whispered when I walked past. I made lattes, wiped down tables, and for the first time in forever, I felt normal. Then in July, the calls from Los Angeles started. A production company wanted to make a Netflix series about the whole Kappa scandal. They kept upping the offer, saying it could help other girls. My stomach churned just thinking about reliving it all. After 3 weeks of back and forth, I told them no. But when a smaller company that made educational videos for universities reached out, I said yes. Their goal was to teach schools how to spot warning signs. That felt right. Sophie came back in October to film her segment. She looked strong, confident, a completely different person from the scared girl she'd been. She was speaking at other schools now, telling her story. Watching her in front of the cameras made all of it feel worth it. The next month, I volunteered for freshman orientation, talking to new students about the reality of Greek life. Some listened and asked questions. Others scrolled on their phones. I saw myself in them, convinced nothing bad could happen. Meanwhile, Chloe's parents had been trying to sue me for defamation since June, filing motion after motion, sending threatening letters. But in November, the judge tossed it. Truth is an absolute defense, he said. They had to pay my legal fees. They left court looking older, smaller. That same week, they announced the old Kappa house was being turned into a women's resource center. Sophie flew back for the dedication. She gave this incredible speech. Half the old members were there, some crying, some glaring. We had all changed. None of us were who we'd been before. January rolled around and I found myself testifying remotely for a congressional hearing on Greek life reform. I sat in my apartment with my laptop camera on, senators nodding along as I spoke. They all promised change, but deep down I knew how this game worked. Big promises, no real follow-through. Then, almost exactly 1 year after that Friday morning when everything began, I stood inside the new Women's Center for its ribbon cutting. Representatives from over 20 universities were there to launch the support network we'd been building. Just before the scissors came down, Sophie grabbed my hand. When we cut the ribbon together, applause filled the room, and Sophie's grip was so tight, my fingers went numb. 2 weeks later, Jessica texted me out of nowhere, asking if I wanted to meet at the little cafe we used to haunt freshman year. I sat across from her for 3 hours, watching her pick apart a blueberry muffin as we went over everything that had happened. She kept saying she wished she'd spoken up sooner. I told her the truth, that we all did what we could when we could. We'd never be those carefree girls again. But maybe we could be something new. The next month, an envelope landed in my mailbox. Prison return address, Chloe's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter, an apology. She said therapy was forcing her to face what she'd done to all of us. That sorry wasn't enough, but she wanted me to know she was trying to change. I didn't respond. But I didn't throw it away either. It stayed in my desk drawer. When I told my therapist about it, she nodded. You exposed a broken system, she reminded me. The harm was already there. You didn't cause it. For the first time, I almost believed her. That spring, Caroline's foundation held its first major fundraiser. Sophie was the keynote speaker, telling her story of surviving a system designed to crush her. When she finished, the entire ballroom was on its feet. Caroline announced they'd raised $2 million for victim services. I moved my classes online after that. Walking past the old Kappa house every day made my chest feel tight. My social work professors got it. They even helped me rearrange my practicum requirements. In May, Sophie dropped a screenshot into our group chat. She'd been accepted to medical school. Her message said she wanted to become an endocrinologist to help diabetic teens. Amy replied instantly. She'd gotten into a counseling psychology program. We were all finding ways to turn our scars into something useful. That fall, Rachel's documentary about everything premiered at film festivals. Packed theaters. Standing ovations. She told me that universities across the country were making it required viewing for Greek life members and during orientation. I deleted my old social media accounts one by one, starting fresh with just 30 people who actually mattered. The girl who used to post matcha latte pics and outfit checks was gone, and I was okay with that. 2 years later, I walked into my practicum placement at a women's shelter. On my third day, a young woman came in, bruises up her arms, fear in her eyes. As I helped her fill out forms, she suddenly looked up and grabbed my wrist. "You're the one who stood up to them," she whispered. "Your story gave me the courage to leave him." I excused myself to the bathroom and cried. Sometimes I still think about those spreadsheets, the ones where Chloe ranked girls by earning potential with $signs next to our names. She'd been running that sorority like it was her personal marketplace. We weren't people to her. We were products. Graduation came without fanfare. My parents drove up. Sophie, Amy, and Jessica all showed to watch me cross the stage. Standing there in my cap and gown, I thought about that morning 3 years ago when it all began. The naive girl eating avocado toast in the Kappa dining room was gone. The sorority house was gone. The illusion of safety was gone. Chloe was in prison. Derek's name was dirt. And somewhere, a diabetic girl was eating lunch with friends who saw her as a human being, not a number on a spreadsheet. That was worth it. That was enough. From avocado toast to the graduation stage in 3 wild years. What a ride. If you stuck around to the end, drop a comment. I read every single one.